that have process behind them, but are really using technology to change the game. It's an amazing meeting. We do it every Monday. And we have representation from all the trades. We have our marketing department who help us with notices. Everything happens in that 30-minute discussion. Communications. So I'm really big on this, and you guys can probably tell. But taking the time to map out a daily communication plan in the implementation. Every day, what are you doing? Sending out a newsletter. We're holding town halls. We're going to meet with customers. We're holding sessions with the trades. We're working with Newmark. Not just letting it happen, but planning for it to happen. All right. I'm going to stick on the ops side a little longer here. So now let's talk about maintenance, repair, and operations. These all kind of are going to the same party. MRO, very classic. I'm not inventing anything here. But bringing it together in a cohesive way leveraged through the technology that manages materials, the asset management, the equipment lifecycle analysis, the preventive maintenance, and the predictive maintenance. It's ownership, not just letting it kind of live in pockets, which is hard to manage from a consistency standpoint. So we hired an MRO manager. That's Matt. Great guy, very sharp, much sharper than me. He gets into this stuff, and he's built out our whole PM program by trade, by site. And he runs the capital planning against the assets that are becoming deferred because they're in the end of life. We hired an asset manager, who's Jonathan. So knowing how much data there is in a system like this, so I started NBC Universal and saying, look, we need somebody to own the asset management function. Everything's got to flow through. The previous presentation talked about this rich data that comes from capital projects. What are you going to do with it in operations? How do you manage it? How do you take ownership of it? How do you apply it? So having a central office that does that. Asset management. This is one of the core areas of this whole platform. I'm sure this group can appreciate the life cycle of asset management. You identify new assets, you select them, you put them in, you work on them a bunch, and eventually you decommission them. So that whole process needs management. And having a definition for what should be in Archibus to begin with. You put everything in there? Do you stop at the terminal device? Do you only go from systems? How do you do it? So we took the time to talk through definitions and criteria. Coding them for either equipment or infrastructure, knowing how they fit and where they play in the database and how they're going to be used. Using Uniformat. Why did you do that for? Well, because it gives me an existing taxonomy of codes that I can then apply, and they're consistent with construction. That's why. I don't have to reinvent anything. This is already all exists. We just need to apply it in maintenance, which many of you I know are doing, which is exciting to be in a group like this. Educating others on how those standards are applied in templates. This database has 8,000 plus records of different pieces of equipment in it now, all done through templates and that schema. Defining criticality. Why would you do that for? Well, again, in Archibus, you can say, well, this piece of equipment is more important than the next one. So I want to make sure I don't skip any PM on this one. Well, you're only going to do that if you take the time to set a criticality. They all build and they live on each other. Data quality, again and again. Problem codes, why to break. Don't just give me a note that says why it broke, just pick the reason it broke. Having clear labeling. Having common names for equipment. Using barcodes and QR codes. All that takes a little time and thought, but the team and the team members who do it, this is David and Jonathan there, decoding a huge master file of equipment from one of our complex broadcast facilities. I love this picture. Really kind of figuring out how to map it over to Archibus. And then how do you put the stickers on? Seems like that would be easy, but it actually isn't. We've talked about this one a lot, like applying the labeling in the field and making sure it's accessible and it's correct. And constantly reviewing the data again and again and again to make sure that it's accurate, so that when you get to the mobile device like this, you can find that equipment and you can attach your work activity to it. Leveraging other business partners that have their main thing. So Swain Smith, we worked with them. They're fantastic at documentation and kind of hierarchy development. So they helped us with SOPs, equipment change notification. You're going to decommission that piece of equipment. Capital project's going to do that. But our database has to be whole when that happens. So having those processes documented is the key. And then finally, materials. And this was kind of the snazzy one. So the material management process, part life cycles, so very exciting stuff, I'm gonna try to get you on this. So not just talking through part numbers and part descriptions, but talking through the whole process, how it's managed through an IWMS system. We built with Newmark a inventory pull tool. This helps us manage when material requests are made, so that in practice we have part numbers and parts and we know that they're in our storeroom. But what matters is now I can say when the part's been pulled and it's ready for pickup. Because there's waste in these processes if you're not careful, that you could wait for material. And I'm trying to protect us against that and help us meet our expectations with the customers that we've set by saying, okay, I know material is going to be available this time, so I'm going to schedule it for after that, and I'm going to tell you when the material is ready. And having clear controls in the system that our team members are trained on to use. And updating mobile. Part not ready, part requested. So on the same device that we've been spending so much time practicing with, looking in there and say, okay, I got it. Don't come get it yet because it ain't ready. So all those pieces have to fit together. And you can see, I think by now, that they do. And it's part of a larger operation that's very scalable. And then training. So that's Matt there training our electric team, taking them through the mobile app, showing them how it works, not just the fundamentals anymore, but taking them through how to process the material request and teaching them that it's okay to expect the app to tell you when it's ready. Then you can do the analysis. You can get into it and really see, well, what parts move the most. And then finally, preventive maintenance, which again is core to a facilities operation, but building it in a way that is coming from multiple different systems and offline needs some structure. So what Matt did is he developed this RACI chart to assign responsibility for when developing this tool and all the data and templates behind it so that it wasn't overwhelming. Break it down into pieces. Talk about PM, but keep it simple. Just talk about frequency of work and materials and the bill of material you're going to use. And then don't let the system be, when it is so powerful, be intimidating to the teams that really own it. So breaking it down and explaining, well, look, all we're talking about is PM frequency. Is it a monthly? Is it a semi? You guys, our team are the experts. They know. So just breaking it down to explain that I'm looking for these key things. And if I do it right, then I can use the PM plan. And I can load balance across the team. And we can find where that efficiency is. So all that is maintenance and operations. MRO, materials, assets, PM, and then mobile. But as the talk of this, the title of this discussion is about the customer. So building customer tools and explaining that they have ways they can reach us now too that are more powerful. A whole request system in the portal. Deciding if you're going to do it with the out of the box or go the custom route. You got to make some calls on that one. Ultimately, we want it to be super easy and fast for customers to come in and make a request and make it home for our customers. So it's branded well with a portal. And then talking through, again, terminology. This one we've hit probably countless times because an integrated workplace management system is the cutting edge technology for facilities teams. That's the powerhouse. But the other terminology is CAFM, CMMS. Still very applicable and very true, but they're part of it. And early on implementation, this was getting a little confusing for folks. Are we doing CAFM? Are we doing CMMS? Well, we're doing IWMS, which is the most powerful of all. So here's a cartoon. This is the easy way to look at IWMS. This is what it is. Work orders, asset history, inventory, audits. And then behind the scenes, relying on your technical teams and how you interface these systems in your other enterprise solutions. So I'm not going to read through it, but you're going to see more of it as I keep going here, that we're talking to SAP, we're talking to a system called SkySpark, talking to SSO, of course, for the secure sign-on. Okay, so that's a lot of technical stuff, a lot of maintenance stuff that guys like me like. But I want to not take for granted that change management and leadership and communications is really core to how this whole thing works. And I'll share with you some of what we did. Holding leadership meetings, talking about materials, like how much time is wrapped up in a typical technician day getting material. 25% is what they told me. And I believe that. That feels about right. doing some planning, not exactly sure what part you need or if you have it on hand. So having communication about all those topics is what helps this massive and exciting change happen, because everyone's a part of it and they understand the value of doing it together. Why measure time to respond? Why are we told you? Because it's part of an SLA that if I don't hit it, I'm not hitting my expectation. But if I don't explain it like that and we just jump right to all this data on SLA performance, that's going to be a little weird. Why measure unplanned and planned work? Well, because unplanned break-in work is the most expensive kind. And if I don't measure it, I can't help protect against it. And then how do we know these things are going to be effective? Like, what are the challenges that we're going to have for planning and scheduling in a Monday meeting? Never done that before. So talk it through, understand where the pitfalls are going to be. Show the technology, show the start and stop. And then I'll throw in a couple of my fun leadership tools, some of my absolute favorites. This is one of them. 9 things successful people do. They get specific. They have grit. And then number 8 there, don't tempt fate. That one's a great challenge for a guy like me, because you're always taking on more and more. But I say bring it on, because this is how you can really change it and make it part of what your organization is about. And then leading change, planning for and creating those short-term wins. So this is one of my favorite articles about it. I'll come back for a second, from Harvard Business Review, about why transformation efforts fail. There's a little framework in there, but this one's key. Planning for and creating short-term wins. And there's our team there. All those are wins. Working together on assets, Robin in there teaching teams how to use mobile, they all part of the story. But celebrating them and communicating them, because we know they're happening. All right, so let me switch gears into space now. Talk a little bit about that. So we have a fantastic space management team here. Sabrina's here. She's our manager of strategic occupancy planning. She and Brandon are the gatekeepers of the space data of Archibus for NBC Universal. And with that is the support and the management of the standards that are deployed to keep the space data consistent and rich and good for reporting. We use BOMA standards, so that way, again, we're not reinventing the wheel. We have a clear reference standard to configure the database. And there are some reasons why you would use a standard that are listed. And again, power of communication, right? So one of our architects sent me a note back, and he's like, Matt, I saw your newsletter, didn't realize you guys were using BOMA, I want to know more about that, let's talk. There we go. Getting techie behind the scenes, interfacing to our HR database into SAP, countless meetings on how that works with org hierarchy, but the reason to do it is that when you survive, you can look up where people sit and who they report to. That's my workstation right there. So that's all part of the equation. Then doing very powerful occupancy and capacity reporting and planning. Show me rooms that are at capacity. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, we configured the system to be reportable so you can. Room category counts by floor. Department area. All that is doable, and you believe the reports if you've taken the time to be very cognizant of the data and the data management. All right. So now I'll talk a little more about transformation. Physical transformation in this case. We completely redesigned our entire operations center into a very dynamic, very open and collaborative space where we have media and content on various command center walls. And the reason for doing that is to connect us to all this information we have now in facilities. So those are all the fun renderings. This is some shots of the construction and the finished product. But then here we are. A complete transformation of our workspace and facilities. Very rich content connected to all the West Coast sites, showing us how to operate the facility. Let's talk Service Center now. Service Center operation, again, is core to the customer experience. And I remember I mentioned before, we didn't have one of these before. So building a Service Center operation that supports 3 very different West Coast properties that are pretty diverse and they're always going 24/7. So talking through best practices. And here's Crystal. She's here too. She's our supervisor of the Service Center. All about the people here, finding the right talent that are going to grow these teams and really leverage the best practices that are in place and doing research and understanding, well, how do we differentiate our operation from others? What makes this Service Center special? What makes it really kind of a cut above the rest, and attacking those opportunities together. Look for the topic, the trends, what's popular right now. in customer service. 24/7, massively upgraded technology, the ability to get feedback. All these things have to happen seamlessly. And do marketing. So we had a marketing campaign. And there you go, we tell them how to download the mobile app. So customers are downloading the mobile app so they can use it to submit work requests. Building FAQs, talking about all the different ways you can access this new service. And then launching the program. And then having a whole campaign around, awareness and access. Did it at every site. And it had this opportunity for customers to ask questions about how this works and why it's there. And then you get into the customer experience. So the happy faces, love this stuff. Super low tech, but it's fantastic. And you integrate it in with the whole work management system. Happy face, we're good. Frowny face, obviously we're not good. So you can see the media wall there, right in the middle is where we put the happy faces. And anytime one ticks in there, and if it's neutral or frowny, they get a call from one of our managers, the customer does. And we say, how do we miss this? What can we do better? We'll make it right. And we'll bring you some cookies. And then training. Training. Hopefully from this talk today, you can tell that we've trained a lot. And we do it practically daily, still. And the reason for that is because that's how you get max value out of a system that can be very intimidating and complex, but breaking it down into those fundamentals. Having working sessions to identify and train power users early. Having simulation days to run all your work orders through the system in the test environment. So you can learn and break it a few times or a lot of times and figure out how this all works. There's the team all in a training day figuring out how this all goes. And then keeping a journal of the stuff we learned and we want to make better. And the reason for that is this is one of the other literatures that I really like called Outliers. And it's all about practice. And the particular point in this book is 10,000 hours of practice. So starting that practice early is what's been making us so successful at this. Not waiting until a month before go live and say, okay, time to train. Nope. Started it as early as possible. Simple things. Sync the app. Sync it. Hit it again and again. Get the current work orders in there. I know this is going to change with the online stuff, so I'm super excited for that. But again, not taking it for granted. Our trades were not familiar with this. So you do all those things, and then you get into rich data, like I've been talking about the whole way. Friends, don't let friends use bad data. I hope not. So, how do you do that? Well, specifying what work orders should have. Work orders should have a priority, should have a specific location, should have an asset attached, etc. Then you can get into trends and managing the data quality through the operation and finding where there's holes in the data of your work orders and then correcting it. Then you get into data science. Again, I'm a data guy, you can tell. I was at Caltech before NBC. So we talk about data constantly. So getting into analytics, nothing fancy still. Just show me the work breakdown. Show me how all the sites are using this new technology now. Does it feel about right? Show me the hours entered on work orders per day. And I want to see if it's 8 hours or not. Why would that be? Well, we're paying for 8-hour days, so I want to see where those 8 hours went. Well, it's all writing on that stop and start. So if these are not high numbers, I got to go train more. Look at the work order volume by team. Does it feel about right, given my team sizes? Talk about work order types. Is the service center picking the right type of work order type when they're triaging? Well, those are all new. I mentioned them to you before. We have about 10. So we've had workshops. Well, let's just apply them and make sure they're clear. Look at the problem codes. Are they roughly distributed the way I would think for our type of operation? Or are they duplicative? Look at the PM. Does the PM look about right? So if a year goes by and I come back and I look at reporting for PM, is it going to tell me the story that I know we built? Or do I have to go correct it, which is going to be hard? And then you get into some fancy stuff. We're looking at like productivity and work orders per person per square foot and stuff like that. So that all comes with this type of approach. Talking about data through the whole journey, talking about transformation and change management and big wins and small wins, and then just keep celebrating the wins. You know, team members that are getting stronger with the technology, give them a shout out. I mean, it goes a long way. Acceptance testing. Getting into those work order fundamentals again, like I mentioned, but not just saying we know we have fundamentals. Do a test on the fundamentals. How are we doing? Give them a sample work order. Did everyone pass? And the hint is no one can fail, but we need to know where we're having trouble so we can focus the training resources. Keep focusing on the goals, like I mentioned before, just again and again and again. Best-in-class customer service, setting and meeting expectations, and being proactive in the operation. Then start the countdown, the exciting stuff. So these newsletters going out every week. And then finally, okay, we're close enough where, okay, now we're committed. Turn the countdown on, I can't change it now. So start building that excitement around the go live. And then you can get into the fancy future stuff. Leveraging all this data for capital planning, asset management, equipment replacement. All those things come if you did everything we were just talking about today. And then you can then begin to harness that information and that collective knowledge from the system and really change the operation through capital planning. Not taking for granted system administration. We put in 3 tiers of system administration. On-site, within our power user team, NBC UIT, and then Newmark. So we can resolve issues quickly with multiple ways to access us. Teaching the customer how to use the new tool. Doing town halls with the customers, explaining how these new tools are an advantage for them. That also, they're not why they're there. They just need to know that they exist, and if they work right behind the scenes, then our job is serving them well. Here's the very personalized sessions, meeting with them all together. Doing executive updates, explaining that all this transformation is happening. And again, leading change the whole way. Like this is us out there on the dock, where we're talking to our foreman about taking credit for all the work we do. It all needs to be on a work order and coded correctly. Now the exciting stuff as we get towards the end here. Predictive operations. So Arquibus is a very powerful machine, and it can really transform your operation because it has the ability to do analysis and calculations for you. So we talked asset management already, and the whole life cycle of asset management, and now we're talking event criticality. Times there's a sweet spot where maybe you're paying a little too much on maintenance or too little, and then you have a critical fault. So these couple charts are hopefully pretty easy to understand, but using it in an approach to really transform the operation is what I'm going to show you now. Connected building systems. So that was the prior talk, and leveraging all that data that's in our infrastructure now. You know, for BAS systems and security and lighting, temperature monitoring, all the power monitoring, metering. So what we did is we took that connected building data, leveraged an IWMS system with funding from Comcast saying, look, this is so powerful, we're going to help you get there on this initial implementation. So we said, okay, we're going to take an IWMS, which we already described what it is, and we're going to bring a system called SkySpark. This is a algorithm-based analytics tool. And with that, I'll give you a couple of little teasers about what SkySpark is. It's an analytics engine. It relies on point tagging. It doesn't care what BAS system you have. But the point is, it's a science-based approach to find inefficiency in the operation. Leveraging this wealth of data behind your facility systems, integrating it to the work order systems of the assets is the game changer. So that's what this is, leveraging these powerful visual tools and automated tools, and then taking it and say, well, find that sweet spot for me. Find it for me, do it through an interface that tells me when it's happening so the asset history is advanced because of that predictive knowledge now. And take it, and don't just give me alarms, because I got plenty of those, I don't need more. Those are reactive. I want a predictive solution. So take that, apply it to this high-rise building where I have thousands of data points. And in there, look at my chill water valves, like this example. Look at my chiller plant with all this rich data behind it, and tell me when that equipment is inefficient, or when it's potentially cycling or wearing out prematurely. So do that, and the analytics are interesting. I have a controls team that looks at these, but it has to live in the work order environment to be truly realized. So here we are. Generated from Spark. Work request generated from Spark. So that is the result of that predictive connection to the building systems. It's a science-based predictive operational tool to tell us when equipment is showing signs of premature failure. It's on 24/7, it's always running, and now getting work orders for energy efficiency. Look, you're wasting energy at the end of the day and in the morning. Let's make a work order for you, and let's go figure out why that's happening. It's costing you money. So as we wrap up here and conclude, again, all of these possibilities, what I was hoping to inspire you with today and share with you just a little bit of information about, not taking for granted that it's all communications and doing town halls with our teams, teaching them and showing them this is all really for them and giving them the tools, and just being open and communicating that this is a massive project, but it's a very exciting one. And because of the technology and because of the focus and the communication, it's really something that the entire team can be very proud of for a long time. Not forgetting some of the housekeeping stuff. You got to tell customers that the tools are changing. The hyperlink's going to change on Monday, kind of thing. And then you get to the go live, which is the exciting part. This has been a whole year-long journey of, thousands of meetings, of all these different discussions that have happened. So you get to hear where the team is, can stand in front of a big accomplishment and be proud of it. And this is across all the sites on the same day. I wasn't teleporting, but it was pretty active. And that's really what drives it home. It's all doable. It's all within your reach. Even if you've implemented years ago, hopefully from today you've taken some feedback on areas that maybe you can take back and share with your teams on what's possible. And then you get to the, hey, we're live. Now I can prove to you how we're doing. I can show you what the customers are saying about their experience in the first quarter. I didn't pay any of them to say this. This is all on their own. So that's exciting. This goes to our top executives. It shares that this investment is adding value, and it really is something that they know will grow and scale. Leveraging those happy faces and a metric that goes to our top executives. I did that. And it was great. It's like, look, we're over 90%. Those are great. Usually facility surveys, you only get the nasty ones. So the customers are giving us, feedback that they appreciate the changes that we put in place. And we have transformed the customer experience. This is the name of the game here. And more than double the work order volume than we had before. That's processing through this machine every day. So as I conclude today, sharing that, with the powerful technology that is Arquebus, having, a relentless focus on communications and setting and meeting expectations with customers and with each other, you truly can transform the customer experience. So with that, I want to thank you for your time and for allowing me to have a few minutes of your morning and your trust in me today. And I look forward to speaking with you at the conference.